Hello everyone! In my last video, I went over how to paint a grisaille underpainting, and today I'll be showing you how to glaze color onto that painting. I have my computer open in front of me and I'll be using that for my reference since I can see the colors a little bit better on this screen. This pear is a bright yellow-green and has this really lovely kind of warm pink-orange color here. So I've picked out a couple colors to start with. I have cadmium yellow and alizarin crimson, some cad red and burnt sienna, cad orange, and ultramarine blue, and I've also got a healthy amount of liquid here on my palette. In order to glaze on the color, you need to paint really thin, transparent layers, so liquid helps with that a lot. To begin, I am just going to load up some paint onto my brush. I am going to start with some yellow and blue to make that kind of bright green. And I will mix in just a touch of orange into it. I have found that mixing green can be really difficult to not get a really acidic, poisonous looking color. And orange kind of like tones it down a little bit and makes it look a little bit more natural. So I usually mix in just a touch of that when I am trying to make a green color. And this is a very yellow green, so it's going to be a little bit different than if you were, painting foliage or something like that. But I'm just going to come in and start laying down this color. It is a little darker and thicker than I wanted it, so the very nice thing about this method with glazes is that you can just come in with a paper towel and wipe it off. If I wanted to completely get the color off, I could just add some more liquid, loosen it up, and I could totally start over fresh. Or you can just kind of lift up the excess and blend in the color a little bit with a paper towel. It is a little bit thick as I'm putting it on, so grab some more liquid to loosen it up and spread it out a little bit thinner as I continue painting on my underpainting. I did make sure that the underpainting was very, very dry before starting, because otherwise I would be ruining it if it was still wet at all. So it is dry and I can't damage it as I am brushing on this coating of paint on top. And I am using a bristle brush, which is pretty rough, and I'm scrubbing it in here not gently. So making sure your underpainting is dry is very, very important for this method. But I'm just coming in and adding in these basic shades of green on the areas that I want, and using my paper towel to blend it out and lift up that excess paint that I don't want. I find that when I oil paint and when I watercolor, when I paint anything, I use paper towels a lot. They really come in handy. I maybe use them as much as my brush, so definitely have some on hand while you're painting. They will make your life so much better. So now I am just mixing together some of my cad red, alizarin crimson, and cad yellow to make that kind of orange-pink color that was in the middle of my pear, and just putting it in here. As you glaze the color on top of your underpainting, it does obscure a little bit of your underpainting. It kind of dulls the dark darks and the light lights, so we will be going in and reinforcing those later. I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm just trying to get down the color where I see it. But something with this method is your colors will tend to be a little bit more subdued, look a little bit more faded than they would if you were painting directly with the colored paint from the get-go. So that's just totally personal preference. If you like paintings that look a little bit more, I don't know, old-fashioned and faded like that, then this is a great method. If you like paintings with really bright globs of color and things that will really catch the eye like that, direct painting will probably be more your style. It really just depends on personal preference. For some projects, this really works, and I love the kind of rustic feel to it, but for other projects, it doesn't work out so well. So it's definitely up to personal preference with that. I'm just trying to blend these colors together nicely, adding in some more of this orange pink color. And then of course coming in with my paper towel and blending it all together and kind of evening it out. Here is where I'm coming in and kind of reinforcing that core shadow shape that was on my pear that's been a little bit covered up by this color glaze. So I'm warming up that shadow shape with this really intense red-orange color and coming in with a little bit of blue as well to darken it up. This is where the line gets a little bit blurred between glazing and direct painting, because at a certain point it becomes a mixture of both, where you are direct painting a little bit, but that's okay. There's no rule that says you can only glaze and you can't direct paint at all on a painting like this. So it becomes a little bit of both, and it's a back and forth as you try to reestablish those values that you had in your underpainting. So I'm coming in with a little bit of color for this shadow shape. When you begin to glaze color into the painting, it does look a little strange because everything else is so either black and white or brown and white, just very neutral toned. And then you're adding color to a part of it, and then the rest looks really dull in comparison. So I do like to add touches of color, even if it's something that doesn't have a lot of color, like a shadow. I do like to give it a little bit of warmth or coolness or something, just so it feels more tied together with the object. And so the object doesn't just stand out as this like one colored thing over a black and white background. So I've warmed up that shadow just a touch, and I'll be coming in with a little bit of warmth in that background as well. So I think I grabbed some of the burnt sienna and maybe a touch of cad red to just kind of warm it up in the background. I didn't want it to be distracting, so I kept it pretty neutral, and just a little something to give it just a hint of color. I'm coming in now with just a softer bristle brush to blend it out a little bit. Giving the stem here just a little touch of color as well, so it doesn't stand out as being black and white anymore. Now, since I've glazed and covered up all of the bright highlights that I had, I can go back in with just some plain white and reinforce the areas where I want just that really bright white highlight on the shape. It's a little hard to see since my camera is just kind of blown out the lights, but I'm just going in and adding a little bit of white. It's not as bright as it appears to be in the video. Hopefully as I kind of shade it with my hand, you can actually see a little bit more accurately where I'm putting these highlights. And there you have it. that is how you glaze over a grisaille underpainting. It can be a pretty quick and simple process that's a lot of fun. I hope that some of this helped you if you have been wanting to try this process. And as always, thank you so much for watching.